Beneath the shimmering skin of the Mediterranean, where Lycian columns lie swallowed by centuries of silence, a man descends. Tariq moves through the blue-green dark, with the practiced ease of someone born between two worlds, his Greek mother's sea and his Turkish father's land. His lungs hold their breath like a secret. Pressure builds against his temples. His calloused fingers pry apart shell after reluctant shell, each one a small act of violence against the ocean's patience. The oysters yield nothing but pale, worthless flesh. Above him, sunlight fractures into trembling spears of gold. Below, only cold and shadow. He has been diving since before dawn. His family's debt does not sleep. Today, like every day before it, promises only exhaustion. Until, in the silk-clouded darkness of a half-buried ruin, one shell resists him with an almost unnatural stubbornness. Tariq breaks the surface, salt water streaming from his hair, lungs burning with the familiar ache of depth. In his calloused hands, the oyster is heavier than it should be, dense as lead, sealed as a secret. He pries it open with his bronze knife, and the world seems to hold its breath. There, cradled in gray flesh, rests a pearl unlike anything the Aegean has ever surrendered. Black as a moonless sky above the Taurus mountains, yet alive with shifting light. Violet, silver, deep oceanic green. It pulses as though something inside it still breathes. Stavros reaches out, then pulls his hand back, unwilling to touch it. A pearl this perfect does not come from nature alone. It comes from grief, or grace, or something older than either. Word of such a find, in a sultanate hungry for omens, will not stay secret for long. The quayside at Anatolia churns with the salt-stung commerce of a Thursday morning, merchants haggling over saffron and copper, gulls wheeling above the Byzantine-built harbor walls. Tariq moves through this familiar chaos as a man carrying a secret he cannot yet name. Then, from the shadow of a crumbling archway, an old figure emerges. Baba Ilyas, robes the color of ash, eyes burning with the particular intensity of a man who has long since surrendered his fear of death. He takes Tariq's wrist with fingers like dried driftwood. The dervish's lips move close to the young diver's ear. He speaks of ancient verse, of saints who wept pearls into the deep, of a reckoning that follows those who carry sacred things into profane hands. The pearl pulses beneath Tariq's tunic like a second heartbeat, and somewhere in the city, powerful men are already asking questions. Word travels fast along the caravan routes of Rum. Within a fortnight of Tariq's discovery, the whisper has become a summons. 2 royal agents ride into the coastal village at dusk, their silk-trimmed cloaks heavy with road dust, their horses bearing the pennants of Konya's imperial court. They carry no drawn swords. They need none. The weight of Sultan Kilik Arslan's name is weapon enough. In the cramped courtyard of Tariq's home, oil lamps flicker against faces tight with fear. His mother's hands tremble over her loom. His younger sister presses herself against the whitewashed wall, silent as plaster. The agents speak of honor, of favor, of the Sultan's boundless generosity. Every word a gilded cage. Tariq holds the pearl in his closed fist, feeling its impossible warmth, and understands that refusal is not merely dangerous. It may be fatal. But surrender carries its own terrible price. The old Roman road stretches northward like a pale scar across the Anatolian darkness. Tariq moves through the night, sandaled feet finding the worn stone by instinct, the black pearl pressed against his chest. Small, cold, impossibly heavy with meaning. Juniper and wild thyme hang in the air. Somewhere behind him, he imagines the torchlight of emissaries. The debt is real. His father's shame is real. The dervish's warning feels, in this hollow darkness, like smoke, beautiful, shapeless, gone at a touch. He counts his steps the way a diver counts heartbeats beneath the surface. To stay calm, to stay alive. Every village he skirts, every distant dog's bark, tightens the knot behind his ribs. Konya still lies days ahead, and Tariq does not yet know he is already being followed. The caravanserai at the edge of the tourist foothills offers weary travelers the illusion of safety. Oil lamps guttering against plastered walls, the smell of roasted lamb fat and unwashed wool, the low murmur of merchants trading rumor alongside coin. Tariq settles into the shadows, clutching the leather pouch against his chest like a second heartbeat. But safety here is a merchant's lie. Across the courtyard, a familiar face, the Alexandrian trader, Yusuf al-Rashidi, rises slowly from his cushion, eyes bright with something colder than recognition. Behind him, 3 armed men materialize from the darkness like jinn summoned by greed. The pouch of silver dirhams placed on the stone floor gleams obscenely in the lamplight. A fortune and an ultimatum dressed in silk. Tariq's fingers tighten around the pearl, and somewhere deep within him, the dervish's warning begins, finally, to make sense. Nestled between limestone crags and cedar shadow, the tek appears like a whispered prayer made stone. Tariq arrives dust-covered, salt-stained, his fists still closed around the pearl's cold weight. The dervishes receive him without question, as though the valley itself has been expecting him. And there, seated beside the courtyard fountain, is Baba Ilyas, serene, unsurprised, ancient as the hills behind him. The sheikh speaks by candlelight, his voice measured and low, unspooling 2 centuries of sacred memory. A saint, martyred on the Anatolian shore, had wept a single tear into the sea before the sword fell. The sea swallowed his grief and made it luminous. Tariq turns the pearl between trembling fingers, feeling for the first time not treasure, but sorrow. What the sheikh reveals next will shatter whatever resolve Tariq has left. Dust rises from the valley floor like the breath of something ancient and angry. Iron-shod hooves, the crack of leather. A dozen soldiers of the emir's household guard ring the tekke walls, torchlight catching the steel edges of their swords. Inside, the old sheikh stands unmoved, his prayer beads still turning in his fingers. Patient as stone, immovable as faith. Tariq presses himself against the cool plaster of the inner wall, the black pearl clenched in his salt-roughened fist, its weight impossibly heavy for something so small. Around him, dervishes kneel in silent prayer, their white robes luminous in the flickering dark. The soldiers do not yet breach the gate. They are waiting for surrender. But surrender, Tariq is beginning to understand, comes in more than one form, and the hardest kind is not given to soldiers at all. Dawn breaks over the Pamphylian coast like a wound slowly healing. Amber light bleeding across water that has known 1,000 years of human longing. Tariq wades in alone, his kaftan heavy with salt and exhaustion, his feet finding the familiar limestone shelf where the oyster beds sleep beneath the surface. The pearl rests in his open palm one final time. Obsidian, perfect, impossibly warm against the cold morning sea. He does not hesitate. His fingers release. The black tear of a forgotten saint catches the first true light and descends. spiraling downward through columns of pale green water, returning to the darkness that made it. Tariq stands motionless, the Taurus mountains rising behind him, the sea accepting its own. But the emissaries of Konya are already riding south, and they do not yet know what they have lost. The letter arrives, folded inside a merchant's saddlebag, bearing the emir's seal in crimson wax. Tariq reads it twice, then a third time, his calloused fingers trembling against the reed paper. The debts, his father's crushing, decade-long debts, are gone, dissolved by a single act of court piety. In the courtyard of their whitewashed home above the harbor, the family gathers at dusk. The smell of salted fish and wood smoke mingles with jasmine climbing the stone wall. No gold gleams on the table. No pearl catches the fading light. Yet something has returned, quieter than treasure, more durable than jade. The sea gave Tariq a miracle, and the sea took it back, and in the exchange, a life was made whole again. But the dervish who warned him has vanished, and whispers along the coast suggest he has been seen moving north, toward Konya.